uh, Telecommunications and Safety for the South Carolina Office of Regulatory staff. First, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Transportation Forum today. Thank you so much for coming. I'd also like to thank the Public Service Commission and their staff for allowing us to use their facilities today so that we could have a central location. Many of you have seen that we've had these forums, or will have them scheduled throughout the state. Last week we had one in Greenville that was very well attended. Today, of course, we're in Columbia, and tomorrow we'll be in Charleston, or North Charleston, technically. One of the primary reasons, or a couple of primary reasons that we wanted to have these forums, many of you know, and Dina and Thomas will get into these. We've had some changes in the statutes and changes in some procedures, and we wanted to make sure that we let all the carriers throughout South Carolina know what those changes are. Additionally, we like to do these, and I'll introduce the staff in just a second. George Parker and John Teeter have been around for a long time, have actually been doing these for years. And it's an opportunity to interact with the carriers, to see what their concerns are, and possibly even be able to address some of those concerns. So once again, welcome and thank you for coming. As we get started, I just want to do some quick introductions. I'll start up front with Miss Dina Lusk. She's our transportation specialist. We have Casey Sims. All right. And we also have Ashley. Remind me your last name. Are you saying Wojcik? Okay, good. I didn't know if it was the same as your father. And we've got one of our inspectors, John Teeter. Covers primarily the upstate. We've got George Parker. Most of you probably know. George is kind of Catawba through the PD. And then we've got our newest inspector is Stephen Williams. He's in the Low Country. And right there at the back, he's in our transportation manager, Thomas McGill. So you'll have an opportunity to interact with each and every one of us today. Again, thank you for coming. I just want to go over a couple of little things. Can we get the slideshow up? Thank you. Just a couple of things. I'm just going to speak to you for about 4 or 5 minutes here. I just want to provide you an overview of ORS. Most of you are exclusively involved in transportation and don't have any other interactions with our agency, but we do a lot of other things that may impact you as a consumer, and I want to give you an overview of those. We'll also talk about those changes in the laws, build those relationships, and finally find out what you might need from us to continue doing business. I've already introduced myself. I've been at ORS for about 15 years now. Not only do I have our transportation division, but I've also got our rail safety, our pipeline safety, our telecommunications, traditional telecommunications carriers like your AT&Ts, but also broadband. We know that there's a big push with the pandemic to push broadband throughout rural parts of the state, and that's one of the divisions that is under me. And then finally, our emergency response division, in which during hurricanes and storms like we just experienced, most of the folks in this room, some form or fashion, help the state recover and restore power and also other critical utilities. Just a couple of real quick things. Just want to let you know, if you do need a restroom, if you'll go outside of the doors back there, you'll take a left and then an immediate left, and they'll be right there on your right. So basically, they're right through where those pictures are right there outside the room. Also, there's not a break room here. We did have some in some of our other locations. Please make sure your cell phone's on vibrate or silent so we don't interrupt anybody who might be asking questions. And if you need to take a call, obviously, step outside from one of your clients. Just step outside, either out here in the hall or maybe out in the open air right there. Let's see. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the sign-in sheet so we've got a record of everything that's going on today. We're not expecting any inclement weather, but if for some reason we need to evacuate the building, please make sure you grab your cell phone and your keys, but leave anything else. Let's go out the back door, across the street, right, and meet where those trees are, and we'll call the roll. And the reason we want to do that, if there's a responder, if it's a fire, whatever it might be, we want to have a record of everybody's in the building, so we're not sending a firefighter in to chase after somebody. Emergency exit, you see them displayed throughout here. Our primary exit obviously would be here in the back, but if for some reason that's blocked off, we could exit through this door right here. And then, of course, if we do have a medical emergency, either myself or Thomas will call 911, and then we'll have one of our inspectors meet the first responder outside if we do have a medical emergency. All right, so with that in mind, I just want to tell you real quick about ORS. ORS is a relatively new agency. We've only been around since about 2005. And in general, our roles and responsibilities are to act in the public interest in any and all utility cases. Transportation would be considered a utility in South Carolina, regulated by the Public Service Commission. So anytime that someone makes a filing in front of the Public Service Commission, it's our role as an agency to give our opinion on whether that transportation carrier should operate, whether that power electric utility should receive a rate increase, whatever the case it may be. Our role is to give our opinion on what is in the public interest before the Public Service Commission. So you've heard a couple of things that that we regulate, including your electric, obviously you as a transportation carrier, but also natural gas utilities, as well as water and wastewater utilities are also regulated by the Public Service Commission and therefore interact quite often with the Office of Regulatory Staff. There we go. Okay, we've got several divisions. You see them listed up here. We've got a rates division that actually works with the electric, natural gas, water, and wastewater whenever they want to do a rate increase. They determine if it's prudent. We've got a services, like a consumer services group that answers complaints. We've got an energy office that sets energy policy for South Carolina. My group is the Broadband Communications and Safety. I already mentioned to you, we've got rail, pipeline safety, transportation, telecom, emergency management, and broadband. We've also, like all good bureaucracies, has a large legal department. We've got a communications group that actually tries to go out and actively communicate with stakeholders and consumers. And then we finally have an auditing and administration group. In my group, we've got our pipeline and rail safety. Basically, we enter into an agreement with the federal government to enforce federal safety rules and regulations. Telecommunications group is the regulation of those traditional telephone carriers like Comporium or AT&T, your basic landline service, which we all know probably maybe 5 people in this entire room probably still have a landline. So it's definitely a dying industry. We've got our broadband group. We talked about expanding broadband into rural areas, and we've got our emergency response in which we assist the utilities to recover from storms. Our transportation is why you're here, all right? We've got several groups that we regulate, including the passenger carriers, that's taxis, our charters, charter buses, limousines, non-emergency stretcher vans, and TNCs. But we also got our household goods in South Carolina are also regulated. And at 1 o'clock today, we're actually doing another forum for our household good carriers. So with that in mind, I think that really concludes our overview of ORS. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dina Lusk, who is our transportation specialist.
All right, hopefully, oh yeah, you can hear me. Thank you very much. Well, hello everybody. Thank you so much for coming this morning. I was able to meet a few of you before we got started. If you call the transportation department at ORS, you were most of the time speaking with me. So it's so nice to put voices with faces, and it's nice to meet all of you guys. And I'm going to get I'll give you basically a brief overview. If you can put that back up for me, thank you. A brief overview of what I do at ORS. I am the transportation specialist for the Office of Regulatory Staff. I manage the semi-annual licensing and decal fee payment process and insurance filings of motor carriers that hold a Class C certificate of public convenience and necessity. So that's a little bit about me. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what our inspectors do. This right here, if you look at the map, this shows you where our inspectors are working. Again, our inspectors, John Teeter, Stephen Williams, and George Parker. Mr. John is in the blue, Mr. George is in the green, and Mr. Stephen is in the red. And basically, they handle investigations, complaints, vehicles, registration. With the vehicles, they handle the registration, the lettering, the license plates, certificate numbers, trade address, etc., and driver information requirements and driver file audits. So anytime you have a question about maybe something with your vehicle or any questions like that, they are always the guys to call. You can always call me. I can give you their phone numbers. They're awesome. They're they have all the knowledge in the world, so they love it when you contact them. I say that. They love it when you contact them and ask them questions. So is there anything else you guys want to add before I move on? I know they're going to have some things to say. They better have some things to say later for you guys. So we'll get to talk with them a little bit more. Okay, so these are the big changes, and this is why we're here. So this first statute change is 58-23-210. And I'm just going to read through it really quick, okay? It says, an applicant applying for a certificate or applying to amend a certificate to operate as a motor vehicle common carrier must submit a written application to the Commission on a form provided by the Commission. The Commission must post information regarding an application to apply for a certificate or amend a certificate for 15 days immediately following receipt of the application. Any person who may be affected by the issuance or amendment of the request, certificate, or amendment may file a written objection with the Commission within 14 days after the Commission posts the notice regarding the application. Part B of this says, if no objection to an application is filed pursuant of subsection A, the Commission may meet to determine if the applicant is fit, willing, and able to perform the proposed service upon a showing based upon criteria established by the Commission. If the Commission issues a directive approving the application, the Office of Regulatory Staff may then issue the certificate. The directive of the Commission shall serve as the Commission's order 30 days after the issuance. So basically what this is saying is after the application is accepted by the Commission, they're going to have 15 days to put out a directive order or an order for your company. So that's really the biggest thing out of that whole statement and that whole statute. So after the application, and I don't think we're any new companies in here. Like you all have certificates, correct? Okay, so this is really for our new companies getting their certificates. All right, now the biggest statute, and this is what we're going to be talking about today, is 58-23-560, and it says, a holder of certificate A, B, or C must annually before January 1st of each year pay to the Office of Regulatory Staff a fee of $50 per vehicle. So this is the biggest change that's going to come into effect starting January 1 for all of our passenger carriers. And we're going to look a little bit more in detail about this. So this is the new registration process. So typically in the past, I've been working here since January 4th of this year. So in past years, I've only done one decal renewal season, which is the end of June, beginning of July. So, but typically what happens is 15 on June 15th, we typically send out decal renewals. So we send that to you guys and say, okay, you got to send in your payments to get your new decals. Well, it's changing. What we're going to be sending out now is a new registration form, and it'll kind of be the same time frame. Starting this year, we're actually going to send that information out on November 15th to all of our carriers, and it's going to be a registration form. I'm going to show you what that looks like on the next slide. And instead of renewing your decal fees, you're going to be renewing and submitting registration for each vehicle. Each of those vehicles are going to cost, it's going to be a $50 fee that goes with each of those vehicles. We're going to send it in the mail this year, just like normal with the renewing of the decal applications. But we're trying our best to do as much as we can through email. So we're encouraging all of our carriers, if you don't have a good email on file with us, please put that on file. With the registration renewal applications that we're sending out, it actually gives a space for your email. So please update that with us if we do not have a good email or a good address for you guys. So again, register the vehicles in the portal. How many of you use the portal? Most people in here use the online portal to renew your decal fees, do you know? And some people may, okay, some people may do that, some people may do it by mail. Either way, we're gonna have both for you guys. So you can register by mail or through the portal. Each vehicle, again, it's not like you have to do calculations and you have to figure out how much everything's gonna be. It's a $50 fee per vehicle. So it makes it pretty simple. If you add a vehicle throughout the year, you must register and pay the $50 registration fee. So anytime throughout the year, if you're adding a new vehicle, you will have to pay that $50 fee. Now, if you have a vehicle and say something happens with it and a maintenance issue and you're done with that vehicle, you're selling that vehicle, but you buy a new vehicle, you can still do a transfer. So you've already put that $50 into that one vehicle. We can still do a registration, like a vehicle transfer. And so you won't have to pay that additional $50 fee. I'll also show you what that form is going to look like because that's a new form. Not much different than the decal transfer, but a little bit, looks a little bit different. Also a new thing coming up January 1, instead of you getting decals, so you will not be receiving decals after January 1. What will actually happen is once you pay that registration fee with each vehicle and you add each of those vehicles to your list, we will actually put you on an active vehicle report, okay? That report is gonna go up on our website. Understand we are still trying to figure out kind of how we're gonna handle things. We are planning to put that active vehicle report on our website, but all of our providers, meaning the airports, MotiveCare, I don't know if we have any non-emergency people in here, but MotiveCare, all of our providers will know that if you've registered your vehicle, you're on that active vehicle list. Okay, so there will be no confusion as far as, even though you won't have that decal, you'll still be on that list. You may have questions about this. I'll definitely get to some, we will have time for questions at the end, so just write them down for me if you can, and we'll get to some questions here at the end. So, okay, so this is kind of what the new registration form, I know you can't really see it, but this is what the new registration form is going to look like. So the decal registration form, the decal application, in the past actually has one vehicle on each application. This, you will be able to put multiple vehicles on one application. It's not going to be that you have, a bunch of different decal applications. That gets a little confusing and a little crazy. And then you call me and you're like, why didn't I get my decal? And I'm like, I actually don't have it. And you put it somewhere. It's just a lot because some of you guys do have a lot of vehicles. So this is actually very helpful where you have it all on one page. It is going to change because the statute has changed. We don't need all the information that was on the decal application in the past. So the information that we're going to need is really going off of your registration that you get from the DMV, actually. So we'll need the vehicle owner. That first column is the vehicle owner. So whatever is on, and this is important, whatever is on your registration as the vehicle owner is what you would put in that column. Okay, that's very, very important because a lot of times I know I have companies who just put their name as the vehicle owner when they're filling out the decal applications, or they just put the company's name. And if that's the vehicle owner of that vehicle, then that's fine. But that is very important according to the registration that you get from the DMV is what will need to be put on here. Okay. The next column is the make and the year, I think is that next column. No, excuse me, the make and the body type. So that'll be the next column. That'll be in the same column. The year, the current plate number. I know that some people may be charter companies or taxi companies, and I know that you have to have an LS plate or a TX plate. Even if you don't have that plate, still put whatever the current plate of that vehicle is in that column. And then we'll start the LS plate process with you after that, okay? The seating capacity is in the next column. And the next one is the last 6 of the VIN, okay? So that's all the information that we would actually need for each vehicle. This year, we're actually sending out 2 pages of registration forms because this applies this year, starting January 1, for all Class C carriers, meaning over 20 vehicle companies. Do I have anybody who's an over 20? Okay, so this does apply to our over 20s. So each vehicle will have to be registered, and each vehicle has a $50 fee with it. And so that's why we're actually given 2 pages this year. You can also do it online. Online, it's right now, when you go online, you have to do one vehicle at a time. You have to pay for one decal at a time. This, when you actually register this time, you can register each vehicle on the same, give me the word. Yeah, the same page. You can put each vehicle information in on each page. So it makes it a little bit easier in a lot of different ways. Again, at the bottom of the second page, please make sure you're just keeping up to date your addresses, because we keep your street address, and if you have a different mailing address, we have to update both of those. On this form, this is just the mailing address, so if that has changed, please make sure you update that for us, as well as an email address. Like I said, we're trying to do as much as we can through email, making you all aware of what's going on, and just trying to do as much as we can through that. Okay, this is the transfer form. This is what I was talking about earlier. It looks a little bit similar to the decal transfer form, but basically at the top you're going to put your company information. Again, your mailing address. We're trying to put that everywhere so you can update that with us. Your email address, and then the current vehicle, the current registered vehicle at the top, and then what you are wanting to, the new registered vehicle that you want to transfer that money and those funds to. So that's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions about that, that's also going to be on our website. All of this information, all of the forms that I'm talking about are going to be on our website. It's before January 1, actually. We're hoping to have all this up by November 15th, whenever we send out those registration renewal forms. So this will be up on our website, but if you have any questions at any time, I can also email this to you, okay? So please feel free to call me if you have any questions. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this, but I'm also gonna let Mr. McGill talk a little bit about this. But we wanted to inform you guys of this. This is proposed insurance regulations. So these are some proposals that have not gone into effect yet. For our insurance, the liability limits, but we want to kind of just wanted to let you know of some things that are proposed that the Public Service Commission are going to be looking at within the next year. So would you like to?
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, we wanted to make sure that we're trying to get this messaging across, making sure that every company has the opportunity to see this. And because we are aware that it does affect the day-to-day operations of every company, but in particular smaller companies that might only have a few vehicles. And so the $1.5 million combined single limit is what is being proposed by the commission, as you can see on this slide. And that's for everybody but taxis. That taxi is the 100, 300, 500, in that the same format that I think that everyone is used to. But again, those are some higher limits there than that have been required in the past. And so what we want to make sure of is that y'all are aware that this is what is being proposed, and that you do have the opportunity to speak with the commission. They've had a couple of forums in the past couple of months, giving people the opportunity to give input, questions, concerns, just kind of where they're falling in line with that. And it's my understanding that there will be another one prior to any of this going into effect. And so we wanted to make sure that you have that knowledge in front of you, and you have the ability to make any comments, suggestions, anything like that, that you'll have that opportunity to do so. One thing I will say is that historically the commission has liked to see some raw numbers or some data to kind of back up if there are concerns or support on either side. And so one thing that we're encouraging people to do is speak with your insurance provider and get a quote for how that would impact you from a financial standpoint at the current limit versus the proposed limit. And I think that will help the commission in seeing what sort of impact that has on you as the company. And I would imagine in some situations impact the customers as well in terms of rates and things like that. So again, we wanted to make sure that we're messaging this information as best we can, and making sure that you have that in front of you, so that any comments or questions that you wanted to ask, you certainly have the opportunity to do so. This isn't by any means going into effect in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. This will most likely be middle of next year, I would think, at the earliest, based on the information that we have. But again, wanting to make sure that it's put in front of you so that any questions are things that you wanted to ask, you have the opportunity to do so. Any questions right now that could just kind of pop up for you?
Yeah, how can we get that information on when they're meeting?
So I think typically the commission would notify every carrier in terms of when those forums are being held. What we at ORS will do, because I don't know if 100% for a fact if that's been happening or if that has happened in the past. So what we're planning on doing is the next time we get notified of the next forum, to message that out to all of our carriers, passenger carrier. It's not affecting household goods currently, but all the passenger carriers, make sure they're aware of when that will be, so you have the opportunity to plan, prepare, and participate if you'd like. Any other questions?
And if you have any more questions about this at the end, feel free, and we can answer to the best of our knowledge that we
Thank
can.
you.
Yes, thank you. On that slide, it says that a Form E is still required as proof of insurance. So a form that doesn't change that process. Your insurance provider will need, if that your insurance is ever updated, they will have to submit a new Form E to us, and that's the only way that we'll actually accept any kind of confirmation of liability insurance. So. All right, so this is for our new companies. Since we don't have a whole lot of new companies, I won't stay long on this, but I do want to mention this for people who watch this later. Our compliance letters, this is going to be changing. It's not really much, but if you remember when you started your company, you would have probably received something like this telling you the 3 steps that need to be taken in order to get into compliance and to get your certificate. The really only things that are changing is obviously the vehicle registration. Those links up there are those links for right now, but those links are going to be different come January 1. So this is basically, it's just going to look a little bit different. Really, the only thing that's changing is number 3, which again is the vehicle registration. Instead of paying a decal fee, it'll be paying the vehicle registration. Okay, I'm coming towards the end of what I'm going to say, but I want to know, is there any charters in here? Charters, okay. So there is a new LS plate process. This is something that the DMV actually requested for us to do. So currently it is a very crazy process with the LS plates. To get an LS plate, and I'm just going to explain it again because we're recording this for those who are going to be watching later. Currently, how the LS process starts is that you have to register your vehicle, get a decal. Then after you do that, you have to send all this information with a money order to the DMV. The DMV contacts us, and they ask for the decal application along with the certificate. I send this to them. Then they send me the LS plate information back. Then they send the charters the LS plates. So it is complicating right now. How it's going to go moving forward is whenever you apply, yes?
Define what you're saying about charter, because we are charter, but we got BC tags.
Oh, you're a charter bus company. Okay, well then this doesn't apply to you. Okay, this is only for charter companies, meaning limo services. Yeah, that's you? Okay, okay. All right, so this process will be changing, so that won't be changing for you. Y'all are good. So what basically is going to start happening for our charter companies is they have to make the registration payment with us, like normal, with ORS, through the registration payment portal or through the mail. Once you receive that $50 fee for however many vehicles it is, ORS will then send a form to the carrier, so to the charter company, with the vehicles that are registered, and it will have, basically, let me go ahead forward and show you what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is the form this is what it's going to look like. All right, it's a fillable PDF on my end, but it'll look a little bit different for you guys. So it'll have the name of your company, your certificate number, when you got certificated, and then how many vehicles that you're needing an LS plate for. And then it gives all the information that the DMV needs for you to get your LS plate. So this is what that form is going to look like. You'll receive this through email, okay? So once you register your vehicle with us and pay that $50 fee, we will then email you this form. Because if a charter company does not have that LS plate attached to the registration, obviously we know that they have to get an LS plate. So we'll send this form after that. Can I go back? Okay. So once you receive this form, then the carrier can actually take this form to any DMV within the state of South Carolina. Okay, so this is the change. You can take it to any DMV within the state of South Carolina and begin the process to get your tags. Okay, again, we don't know all the details of how the DMV is going to be handling this. So when I say begin the process, that doesn't mean that you are going to receive your LS plate right there. But you could potentially, depending on what DMV you go to, but you will at least begin that process. They will send that LS plate information off for you. And then once the tag is received by the carrier, okay, once the tag is received by the carrier will need to then notify us of what that LS plate number is. So we will not get that LS plate number from the DMV like we have in the past through email. We will only get that from the carrier. At that point, then the carrier and that vehicle will be put on the active vehicle report and be able to operate. And it's a similar process for new companies as well. Once a certificate is issued to a new company, we will then be able to issue the LS plate form. They'll be able to take that form to the DMV and begin this process as well. So a little bit different, a lot different, but I think it'll be a good change. I know that it's been a hard process with the DMV lately. It's taken a long time for them to get these LS plates out. I know they've had a lot of turnover. Do give them a little bit of grace, but if you do have any issues, you can always call me. I can give you a couple of numbers, a couple of emails, try to get this process moving as quick as possible because we want you guys to start working. We don't want you to have to just sit there with the car and not be able to put it on the road, okay? So that is all I have. These are some contacts that we have. And if you have any questions at any time, again, feel free to reach out to me. Leave me a message or email me. It does get very, very busy, but please feel free to leave me a message and I will get back to you as quickly as possible, okay? So I think we're gonna open the floor for questions or comments. I know our inspectors are just itching to tell y'all a couple of things. So, but if you have any questions, please feel free. And I have a mic right here for you to ask your questions in.
One of the things that I'm running into.
Let me give you this mic
just to
really
get
quick, sorry.
A new application
Mm-hmm.
is the insurance proof. I have a current one, and when I call, it doesn't give an explanation. They're just giving me one fee for the year.
The insurance company?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have them currently, and they're saying that they're not giving them like a little printout of the proof. They're just giving them what I have to pay for the year. And I've been trying to let them know that I can't submit that with a charter application. I need to know. And that's what across the board is giving us a problem of getting a proof without a car. And you have that on your application that we don't need a car, but insurance will not give us anything without a car.
Yeah.
You can get a quote on a personal car to begin with if you have to, and most of them know that. So yeah, if you plan on switching, you could just get it on a personal, because that's a quote. It's not a binding. We have a lot that do that. Since you don't have another one, as long as you have a personal one, try it that way. And they've done that before. I had one other comment on those.
Use that, John.
Sorry. On those insurance possible changes, I had a company call me this week. I'm not sure if non-emergency is included in those, because non-emergency insurance is listed at $1 million at another spot, and that's still in their changes. I know we had talked about that and thought it was non-emergency. It might not be non-emergency. It might just be charter and taxi with the insurance increases.
Yeah, and this is stuff that, again, these regulations are proposed, so we're still learning about them and kind of how everything's going to be handled. So yeah, these are things that we've been discussing a lot. So if you do have a question, obviously ask us, but we will try to give you the best answer. And if we don't know it, we'll say, I don't know, and we'll get back to you about it. So thank you for that. Yeah. Anybody have any other questions or concerns? anything else?
And I would speak again too, y'all. Y'all are kind of our eyes and ears out there. I mean, we're out there to enforce and help y'all out, but also the legal providers. If y'all see anything ever wrong, let us know. Y'all probably have our officers' numbers. Let us know, the legal providers, or if you see somebody else transporting or something wrong. It's only fair they're all right. We're out there to protect the passengers in the state of South Carolina. So let us know if you have any questions about another provider. I mean, we don't consider that, ratting on somebody, I guess, but it's just to help. We want to make sure everybody's safe. So
Yeah.
please, if you have any questions, let any of the officers know. Complaints, issues, whatever, let us know.
Yes, please do. Yes, sir.
There's been some talk about the charter bus insurance going from 5 to 10. Is that something that's in the works, you know of, or might not be?
I'll let.
I haven't seen that listed out, but that's certainly something we'll keep in mind. And again, whenever we do see another forum coming up, or a workshop coming up that the commission is doing, make sure to include the charter buses in there for any changes that might affect y'all as well.
And I guess that's interstate on federal level where they're doing it. So state, I'm not sure if they'll go that high. We're pretty much setting it on those intrastate, so within the state trips.
Got one more question. Also, before she answers this, I want to say this too. I think when we first got this state statute that we've been talking about with the $50 fee and registration fee, we initially were putting charter buses, Class C charter buses in that, and I thought that charter buses were going to have to register each vehicle, pay that $50 fee for each charter bus. But that statute applies only to our taxis, our charters, stretchers, and non-emergency. Okay, so just those four. And again, like I said, we're all learning. We're still learning everything. We've pretty much got a grasp on how everything's going to go moving forward come January 1. There could be a better way to handle some of this. And again, we love your feedback. Genuinely, we love your feedback. We've had a lot of feedback from people of, could you do this? Could you start doing this? This would help us a lot if you did this. And it is very helpful to us. So please, at any time, if you have a concern about something or feedback that maybe would make your life a little bit easier, we definitely don't mind with that.
So, Dana,
Mhm.
the purpose of that increase, have
Yeah.
you given any ideas of why they want that increase?
The insurance increase? Okay, so what she asked is, what's the purpose of the insurance increase, and have they given a reason? I'm not really sure about everything, and I may have somebody else. I'm not really sure of what the purpose is of the increase.
And
Mr.
yeah, so
Gilman?
to our understanding, part of the reason for that is there have been some questions from commissioners recently of whether those liability limits are high enough and some of those things. And that's been a question they have been asking for several months, really, on both passenger carrier and household good carrier. And so whenever they opened up the regulations for their review, they've used it to, they've done some, our understanding has done some research on what some other states are doing to kind of adjust those. And so that would really be protecting the consuming public in their minds of kind of the rationale behind it. So that's why they're looking into it and have come up with these limits that they're proposing at this point.
Okay. We have another question.
I may have missed this, but the $50 new registration fee,
Yes, ma'am.
is that once a year now?
So sorry. Yes, ma'am. That is
Okay.
once a year. We are no longer doing, right now, currently, thank you so much. I'm so sorry for not even putting this out there. But right now, how you re-register or how you register your decals is twice a year. You do one in January and then one in July. Right now, this is only going to be a one time a year fee, one time a year registration fee. And for that year, you are registered. Obviously, if you end up selling the vehicle gets totaled, something like that, you will obviously let us know. We'll make that vehicle inactive, transfer those funds, or whatever we need to do. But it is just a one time a year fee. So very important. Thank you. Any other questions?
Can you explain what the charter does?
Can I explain what the charter does? Okay, charter is a more of a limo service. So if it's more of a call ahead service with a taxi, taxis can pull up and people can get a ride immediately right there. With charters, it's that people have to call ahead and reserve you and to drive them wherever. So that's more of what a charter service does. Yeah. Yeah. And I can talk to you a little bit more about that afterwards if necessary. So, okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. If you do have any other questions, feel free to talk to us or talk with one of our inspectors. We'll try to answer your questions as best we can. But we so appreciate you coming and hope you have a great afternoon.
And one other thing that I'll mention just for everyone's information, we did record this here today. So once we get everything in a file, we're going to email this recording out to everyone. We're going to post all these slides to our website. So for you to access those and disseminate those to whoever you need to. Again, as Dina said, any questions you ever have, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We will be glad to answer any questions that we can and try to make this change as seamless as possible. So yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank you guys for having this because this is very informative.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure y'all have the information that y'all need to be able to serve the public to the best ability that y'all can as well. So we appreciate, again, all y'all coming and hope you have safe trips back to where you came from and let us know if we can help anything in the future. Thank y'all.